just thought I would just do 17 moves from the Tai Chi set. Well, everybody kind of finds the location and is able to follow. And so if you're joining me live right now, you might want to join in if you know the 17. If you don't, just sit and relax. Sit nice and tall, breathe nice and deep, and just enjoy the movement set. And I will just go through the 17 moves. So the set always begins and ends with a bow. And this is to give thanks to all the people who have passed the information forward over the years, many, many years, hundreds of years. This is commencement. Moving into grass bird's tail. Sorry, left grass bird's tail, and then into grass bird's tail. Comes around to whip to one side. Into step up to raise hands. Into white stork spreads wings. Into brush knee left. This is strum the pepa. Brush knee left. Right. Left. I'm just going to back up if you stay where you are. Strum the pepa. Deflect, parry, and punch. Into appear to close the entrance. And then we always finish and end with the bow, and I know we only did the 17 moves. But I can say I am truly grateful for Tai Chi, all that it offers me every day, and all that I have gained from the people who have shared it down the line for hundreds and hundreds of years. So, welcome to Tai Chi Wellness in the Seated Form series. We are going to be exploring on Fridays Tai Chi, going back to basics and just exploring. So if you are someone who's been doing Tai Chi for a long time, this may take you back to some concepts you might have forgotten about, or you can gain more awareness about. And if you are coming here for the very first time and you know nothing about Tai Chi, then just know that it is imperative that you are patient with yourself, that you learn the moves as you need to learn them. So just taking the time for the pieces to fall into place, and you are, which is a little bit different than you would normally experience it in person, but it is very possible to bring awareness into your movement patterns and to make significant changes, even if we can't be in person. What I am going to ask you, though, is to please make sure you take care of yourself. There should be no pain in anything that you're doing. You should only take in what you can take in and work with those movements. Don't try to take on more. Don't try to push yourself to do everything all at once, because that'll be self-defeating. And also that if something isn't working for you, to remember that the reason it isn't working for you is because that's a place where your body has a block. And that's a key piece of information, because you want to get to the place where that block lets go and that movement pattern is no longer a problem. And a lot of people will just say, I can't do it. And then they'll just stop because it's very frustrating. But if you go back, just back up to a place where you're really comfortable, breathe deeply and do small pieces, the body will reprogram and move itself. And you'll find pretty soon you won't even be aware that you've actually shifted. And so that's where patience comes in, because sometimes we want everything right now, and Tai Chi is not that. Tai Chi is not an exercise form. It is a form of movement that allows you to build energy, to store energy, and to bring balance back into the body. So that is a different thought process than you're going to be doing a workout, because this isn't about being in a workout. This is about creating flow. Where do you have blocks in the energy systems that are happening in your body, and how do you create the flow? Okay, so now that I've explained all that, you are going to be patient with yourself. Just be aware of different pieces. So today I'm going to talk about awareness, and I'm going to see if we shift awareness by the time we get to the end of our time together. So what I would like you to do is just stand on your feet. I'm going to back up so you can see my feet. My toes are going to go straight forward with my knees bent, hips relaxed, just really nice and relaxed. I just want you to notice where on your feet your weight is. So you may notice that you're kind of forward into your toes and your toes are gripping the floor. And that's going to tell you that you're pushing forward into activities, and that's causing you a little bit of stress. That's going to show up. Hey, hello, Aria. To all the Gillises, thank you for being here. All right, and we try to react to people as they comment or put things in there, because it is live, and this is an opportunity for us to build community, which is really important, especially the communities I still cannot reach yet in person. So anyway, it's always delightful to see names popping up. Okay, so you have your awareness in your feet. We talked about toes gripping into the floor. So now what I want you to do is notice then some of you may have more of your weight back into your heels. If it goes back into your heels, you can feel a lockup that happens in the glutes, okay, so in your butt, or in the hamstring, back of the leg. You might notice the thigh a little bit. You might notice the knees. So that's going to tell you that you actually are doing this when you are faced with a stressful situation, which is presently at the moment, which is not a good place to be yet. We haven't started. So what I want you to do now is see if you can just find the center of your foot. We call it the bubbling springs. And if I was using my hand as my foot, you've got the ball of the foot here. I'm going to go down a little bit lower. Right in there, that would be called the bubbling springs. And if this was my foot on the floor where my finger is, right in here, there's a spring action that happens in the foot by the way it positions itself on the floor, but it has to be relaxed. So if you're gripping your toes, you can see just what that grip's going to do. That bubbling springs is not going to connect. And if you push down into the heel, you're still not going to have that connection of buoyancy that's going to come through the foot this way. Okay. Oh, Rhonda, hello, and Terry. Oh my goodness. Fantastic. Even till 12:30 is great, Terry. Ah, Jeanette, thank you for getting up early, having breakfast with me. That's wonderful. That's great. I'm so glad to see all of you, or see your names anyway. Okay, so we're talking about down into the bubbling springs, and we're talking about how you want to have that buoyancy. So that's what we're going to look for. And when we can find that position without even thinking about it, then we know our body is not stressed. If you're standing on your foot and it's gripping or it's rocked back, then you know just standing you are in a stressful position, and that's not going to be helpful for you. So we're going to get to relaxed. Okay? We're going to get to it through movement and come back to sense this. But I want you to know where you are at the moment. Okay, so now let's notice the feet. So you have the pads of your 5 toes. So now what I want you to do is connect to those 5 toes. Are all of them feeling equally on the floor in each foot? Maybe you have more weight into one foot than the other. Maybe sometimes it's the 4th toe and the middle toe I can't really feel so much. So maybe you're missing some toes. They're there, but you can't actually feel them or sense them. So I just want you to be aware of that. So then you have the big ball of the foot. So that is the joint of the big toe. And then you have the joint of the little toe. So that's on the foot. And that should be equal between the big ball and the little ball. And for me at the moment, I've got more weight on my right foot into the big ball than to the pinky, and not as much weight on the left big ball as the right. So I've got a lot more pressure happening on my right side than on my left. So that's definitely going to have an imbalance that's going to come through ankle, knees, hips, shoulders, and neck. Oh my goodness. So I'm glad that I'm aware of that, because now I'm going to be able to sense that shift later. Okay? So now you've got the outside edge of your foot. You should feel it on the floor. And you should feel it all the way from the pinky ball of the foot all the way back towards the heel. So just feel the awareness of that. And then come into the heel. What do you notice about the heel? So I feel like I'm standing flat on my heels. So I'm not like more in on the inside than the outside. But I feel like there's this push happening on the inside of my heel. So I can still feel it cross, but it's got this extra little bit. So what I want you to do is notice, what is that doing for you? And then maybe from there, what do the joints feel like? The ankle, the knee, the hip, up through the spine. Just notice what it feels like, okay? So now that we brought that awareness in, I just want you to go for a little walk around and notice how you're walking on your foot. So I know it's a small space that we're all working with, so I would normally look for whether my arms were swinging a little bit. I would look for if my toes were straight forward. How do my knees feel? When my foot reaches the floor, when I step onto it, how am I stepping onto it? You know, am I flat into it? So I'm walking through my foot straight this way, or is there kind of like a roll that happens, or a roll this way? So just kind of what's happening. And again, you're only noticing, because we don't want to consciously change all of these things. We just want to notice that they're not quite balanced in some way. And then we're just going to do Tai Chi and then come back to them and then see what happens. And then that means any shifts that happen are a result of no effort. You don't have to think about keeping them there. You don't have to hold them in a position. And you don't have to hold them with tension. You can actually let that go. Okay, so I think I see one more name. Sibby. Hello, good morning. Okay, so that's wonderful. Great to have you too, Sibby. Okay, just lower that down. All right, so now that you have all that awareness, let's do the first 3 moves from the Tai Chi set. Some people would think that we would go to some of her foundation exercises, but those are actually designed for once we have movement flowing really nicely, then we go back to those foundations because they connect the tendon and the muscle to the bone. And they need to be released. They need the whole body to be relaxed in order for them to work well. So if we start there, we're actually going to be working with stress. And we're just going to be like pushing on the stress. It'd be like poking somebody. We don't want to poke. We just want to be relaxed. So we're going to go into the set. So let's put our feet down into the floor, and our very first move is commencement. So if we push into the floor, the arms will rise. They're going to float and then sink. Okay. So I'm going to do that again because there's a lot happening here. If it's the first time you've ever done this, you're going to be thinking about arms. Okay, so I'm going to say push down into the floor and let your arms float. Now you probably put a little bit of effort in if this is the first time you've done it, because you're probably not breathing too deeply at the moment. You're thinking about how you're going to do this and you're watching. So what I want you to do is take a deep breath in, big belly breath. And then let that go. And one more, big breath in. And then let that go. Now, when you go to do the commencement this time, let the breath lead you. Okay. Now, what I noticed is my arms, I didn't have enough breath to get my arms up even towards my shoulders, which we don't need our hands to go above our shoulders, but they do come almost shoulder height before they start to change. But I actually didn't have enough breath to get me there. So let's do a little something, just get the breath going. This is really important. So we can rub 2 points along the collarbone, right in here, which as you start rubbing, could be a little tender, like you're being poked. All right, that's the alarm point for lung. We'll just give a little bit of extra love. And let's let that go. Now see what happens. Take a deep breath in. That was a little bit better. Isn't that amazing? One little point on the body. Okay, so breathe in again. Let that go. Okay. So now I'm noticing I have a little bit more breath, but I'm still running out of lung capacity when I still want to keep breathing. I don't know if that's a good description for you. So I'm going to add one more tool. This comes from Qigong. You're going to tap from the chest down to the palm, and you're going to do that because lung to thumb is the pathway that the energy flows for the lung meridian. So this is something that's really helpful for colds and coughs. You just give them a firm tap all the way down, and I'm going to do the other arm as well. This actually will open up all the villi in the lungs, little tiny hairs in there, and it gives it more surface. So much more oxygen that can go in. Okay, so now try that float. And then let that go. Now what I noticed that time was my arms did float. So I was getting more energy into the system to be able to allow no effort. Fantastic. Okay, that's where we want commencement to be. That beautiful free flow, no effort kind of thing. Okay, so let's do a couple and I'll be quiet this time. So here you go. Oh, delightful. Okay, so those commencements, I'm hoping you could feel how the air was going in, how the body was flowing. Now you may have noticed, because visually when you're watching me, you're seeing my arms move, but you probably saw my knees move, my hips move. What you probably didn't see though is what's happening inside as I'm doing all those activities. So I'm just going to talk you through that a little bit. For those people that have done Tai Chi for a while, you may already have these experiences. Today, if it's your day one, you might have just enough to breathe in and get your arms moving and go back. That's totally fine. Remember that patience I talked about. But also now I want you to have some awareness that you're not always going to see what's going on. So I'm just going to describe some of the things I experienced in my own body. So before my hands go to leave the floor, I'm going to actually put a little bit of pressure down into the floor. And in order to do that, I'm going to let my knees go and my hips go so that they relax. Okay? So I push down into my feet, which is a relaxation. And just as I do that, my lower back drops. And it doesn't drop because I tucked under, it drops because I put pressure into my feet. There's a mechanism that links those two up. So I go drop, and my spine lets go. This part right in here just does a little pull like this. And not because I pulled it, it does it all by itself. I'll turn this way, maybe you'll be able to see it. Okay, so if I sink, okay. Now you may not feel that today, and if you don't, that's totally fine. I just want you to be aware that there's more going on than you may realize, and one day all of a sudden you may feel it. And then you go, oh, that's what she was talking about. Okay, so I sink down into my feet. I release all the joints. That tailbone lines up with the floor because of my sinking into my feet. And now my spine can have a little bit more movement. And the oxygen we were taking in by breathing fills up all the spaces in the spine in between each vertebra. And that's going to go right up to the top of the neck, right up out through the top of the head. Okay, so let's do a couple more, and you just see what you can be aware of. So here we go. Okay, so I hope that brought you some calmness. So now I'm going to talk about the knees and the elbows because they're reciprocal, which means when one does something, the other does something. So I went down into my feet, my hands started to float, my knees and my elbows are relaxed. And then just when I get to where there's going to be effort, all of a sudden there's a shift in the hip and the shoulder, which bends the elbows and the knees. And then there's a settle that comes off the end of that. Okay, and they work together. There's a synergy together. Okay, so now that you have the awareness of that, let's just put that coordination together. So you've got a big breath in, floating up, and then change of position, sink. Okay, so let's try that again. So floating up, sink, change of position. Change your position. One more. Float. Change your position. Nice. Okay. So now let's take the next movement. Commencement, we only do one of them in the set. But you could see how you could just, if you just stopped in the middle of your day and just did a few breaths, how much change you could make. We rubbed lung alarm point, we tapped the line for the lung meridian, and we opened up the villi and we changed the way you're breathing, okay? So now we need the next movement. So I'm gonna just turn myself, I'm not sure what the best way is. I'll describe it to you. So here's your commencement, sink. Okay, so now what's gonna happen is your weight is gonna go a little bit over to the left, and the right foot is going to turn to face the side wall. So it's going to face 90 degrees. You're going to turn it, and it's your right foot. Okay, so I know if you're watching me, it might not be easy to see that, but we're going to bring it in. So your hands come down, hips are open, knees are relaxed. Tiniest little shift to the left, and turn. Now, for those that have been doing this for a while, we have a little bit more that we can do. So I'm just going to add this piece on. Again, today is day one for you. Structure, shift, turn. Okay? But if this is not new to you, I'm just going to add a little bit. So we get to the bottom, I'm just going to let my hands relax. And as I shift to the left, my fingers do the tiniest little bit of movement in. And as my foot turns, my right hand comes slightly over my left. And now what's going to happen is I'm going to pull that right hand out and finish my turn. Okay. So for those that are, it's day one for you. You've shifted to the left. You've turned your foot. You're going to take your right hand out. Left hand is staying down by your hip. And then the back heel is going to let go and it's going to face the corner. And your hips are going to turn to face the sidewall. So now you're facing right to the side. Okay? So let's put that a little bit together. So you have sink, shift, pull, sink. Okay. Now there shouldn't be any pain in any of those actions, so if there is, something isn't lining up correctly for you, you may need to breathe a little bit deeper. You may need to let go of gripping some things that might be holding on, okay? And just very gentle movements. Okay, so I'm just going to take that little movement one more time. So I'm going to spiral. And now I said use your foot, but really we're going to actually be turning right from our hip. I'm going to turn the whole leg in the socket. Turn the whole thing in a spiral action. And that's going to give us a spiral action that's down in our left leg. And what we're going to do is push out of that spiral, and we're going to start to spiral down into our right leg, but we have to let go of that left foot to get there. And this just allows you to turn and sink down into the leg. You'll notice my right knee is behind my toes. If I look down, I can see my whole foot. So I didn't have my knee pushed out in front, and I didn't have a lock here in my hip. I actually turned my hip right around, so I have this nice long line that goes all the way down to the end of my left heel. Okay, so that's a lot of information. I'll be quiet this time, just do the actions with commencement. Okay, shoulders and neck. Let's just talk a bit about those. So commencement, when you go up, we talked about lengthening the spine, lengthening up through the top of the head, right? You want to keep that when you move to the next move. So I'm just going to bring that in. So here's your commencement. Probably forgot how to do that movement already. Think. I know I did. Okay, into the left. So now right here, this comes through, the shoulders are going to line up, and then I'm going to extend right out the top of my head, right down to the bottom of my heel. Okay? All right, so let's try it one more time, but this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you do it on your own. So I'm not going to do it. And I have a cat that's been clawing at the door for half an hour. So I'm going to go open the door, but you're going to do this pattern without me so you can feel it inside. So you start with your commencement. Okay? So open up your commencement. And then you're going to go way into the left. And then you're going to turn all the way around to your right side and extend out. Oh, you wet cat. All right, it's raining outside, so Missy is soaking wet. Okay, did you do it on your own? One of the things about Tai Chi is you're going to try to visually see it, because you need to have something to watch. Then you've got to put it into your own body. That's how you're going to learn Tai Chi. You can watch, but then you have to put it in. And muscle memory will allow you to remember all the moves. They all link together, but you need to do it on your own. Okay, so I'm going to talk you through it one more time. So you have your commencement, sink down into your feet. Nice big breath in, commencement. Sink down into your feet and shift your weight over to your left. Turn your right foot. Turn around towards the right side and let your left heel release so you can have everything line up so you're facing your side wall. Okay, so that's twice on your own. Master Moy Lin Shin, who was the person that I learned through other teachers. Master Moy would have said, talk about it 3 times, demonstrate it 3 times, let them do it 3 times. Then they're on their own. So that's twice you've done it through. So I'm going to let you do it one more time, and then I'm going to pick up the last movement that I want to give you today and let you explore that. Okay, so you have a commencement. Let that sink down. Sink down into the left. Turn all the way to the right, extend out, and sink. Perfect. Okay, so that's your 3 times. So I see Oria saying that I'm freezing. Now that can be at my end, but it can also be at everybody else's end. You never know for sure. So if I am freezing, I apologize. What I can do next time is try to bring it through Zoom into Facebook Live. That'll be another option I can try. And that might give us a little bit more clarity. But anyway, I hope that you're able to catch most everything that I'm doing. And it will be recorded, and I will download it, and I will upload it onto the YouTube channel for Tai Chi Wellness. And I will create a new playlist, which is for our new live versions, so you can find everything there as well. Okay? So you'll be able to watch through. Hopefully the recording doesn't have any pauses in it. Okay, so you did 3 times on your own, and now what I want to do is add the last little part on, which is left grass bird's tail. So let's do commencement together. Big breath in, push down into the feet, let the hands float, and then sink down into the feet. Let everything relax. Over into the left, and pull that out. Let the heel go. Okay, and then you're going to hold the ball, step to the left corner with your left foot, and reach out. I say left corner because you were facing to the side wall. Okay, so this last little piece, I'm going to turn and face you so you can see what we're doing. So we would have just finished this position. So what happens is, as my hand comes out, it's actually, let's turn a bit, it's actually going to keep going, and I'm going to roll into a ball. So right here, I'm going to spiral down into a round position. So when you're looking at me, it looks like I go hold. And then I'm going to go step, hold. Okay? So it's looking like that. But what's going to actually happen is I come out, I spiral down into that right leg, place my left foot towards the corner, and then I push out of that left leg, and my right hand works its way to my right hip, and my left hand works its way for the back of the hand to be straight in front, lined up right with my heart line. Okay? So what I'm going to do is face you to do that little bit of action. So we would be here. Sink and hold. All your weight is on the right. Step to the corner and push out of that back foot and around into the left foot, into the front. And that is the same kind of action you used on the other side, stepping onto your right leg. So we push out of the right, turn, square the hips, push that forward, creating a long line, comes all the way through, knees are behind the toes. Okay, so I'll back up a little bit, and I will do that action as I had done before. Okay, so here's your commencement, and then let that go, into the left, open the hands and reach out. Hold the ball. Step with the left foot to the corner. Turn, square, reach. Okay. So let's do it one more time. I'm just going to turn myself a little bit, so hopefully that'll give you a different angle. Okay, so here's your commencement. Let that go. Sink. Into the left, into the right. That's going to pull out. Hold the ball. Step to the corner. Left grasp its tail. Okay. Now, important things that we have just done by that action is we've changed the shoulder seam. and we've changed the hip seam. We've rotated in and out, both areas, and this action coming in as well. And what that means is we are creating information going back to the brain for better functioning, memory, the boost to the different energy systems, because there's a flow that's been created all the way through. So just this little action you might see over time, if all you did was this, you might see crazy little changes happen in your life where you start remembering more things, or where you go to learn something, it's a little bit easier, where you go to move something that caused you a little bit of trouble, all of a sudden it doesn't, and all because you did this little tiny bit of movement. It's amazing. Okay, so I'm going to do it one more time. This time I'm not going to say anything, so you can just feel the flow without any language. That changes things. So here we go. Commencement. I'm hoping that's helped and that that feels all right. So now what I want you to do is go back to your feet and awareness. So now notice where your weight is. I'm laughing because mine is like solid down into my feet. If somebody wanted to come over and push on me now, they wouldn't be able to push me over. I'm like so grounded. That's exactly what we want. That whole grounded feeling, so down into the feet. Now, notice if the weight is in the bubbling springs all by itself, or if you are still back into the heel or into the toes. That'll tell you that you haven't shifted out of that fight or flight stressed positioning. You're still there and need more time to settle into being really strong and stable where you are, okay? So now check in with the foot and notice if you feel more of the feet. You might not have everything yet, but you might have more than you started with this morning. Okay? What I do notice is my lower back has opened. It means that tailbone has dropped so that my lower spine, I tend to have an arch that closes up right here, just in typical standing. And what I'm noticing is that has let go, and I'm just a lot more relaxed. And that's what we want. Okay. If we have some release there, then we can go to a foundation exercise. This one is hands turning. So your arms make a 90-degree angle. Elbow is going to be close to the body, about an orange width away. So you can make a fist. It'd be about a fist away. And all you're going to do is just turn the hands. You want to sink down into your feet, open your back, breathe. I'm turning my hands slowly, just so you can get the action. Okay? I'm heating up, so I am moving energy for sure. Okay, so my feet and my hands are now warm. All right, amazing. I just add one little change of movement and I can completely change my circulation. All right, so we are turning the forearms and the hands and the wrists. I'm just going to move a little bit closer because there isn't much in the lower body necessarily you want to see. But as you can see here, I have a reciprocal. This arm can be reciprocal of my spine. My wrist can be reciprocal to my neck, and my hand is reciprocal to my head. So if I have everything relaxed and I'm breathing deeply and there's a nice big space in my spine, it can be reacting the same as my arms. For my legs, if you think of the elbows and the knees as being reciprocal, then the forearm becomes the lower leg, the wrist becomes the ankle, and the hand becomes the foot. So now, if I can relax everything in there, my back can open a little bit more, okay? And I keep breathing a little bit hard while I'm talking. There. All of a sudden I sunk down into my feet a little bit better. Okay. So just this little action here can change the whole body. That's why I was saying we don't use it as a warm-up, because it's not a warm-up. It's something you do when you are relaxed, you found that relaxed state, and you're able to move easily and with flow. Nice big breath. Okay, now I'm moving my hands specifically, flat, turn, flat, turn. Let's go a little bit quicker. This would be to get energy to flow. As I was saying though, I already had energy flowing, I warmed right up. Okay, we just want to get the flow coming through. Okay, and again, my hands are still in front, 90-degree angle with my elbows. My hands are in front of my shoulders. So if I turn this way, so I'm not out here or here, this happens sometimes. Okay, so it's underneath. Just relax, sink down into that. Beautiful. So this is hands turning. You can change your spine, you can change the space in the body, you can change your breath. And let that go. Okay. Now if you turn your hands down here, instead of with the elbows bent, the shoulders are reciprocal to the hips. And if you release the hips, you can have turnout in the hip changing as a result of you turning your arms. This is really good for people who sit a lot or have tight hips, who don't swing the leg through when they walk, but kind of lift the hip as they're walking. So this is really good for changing the formation of that motion. So we're just turning at the bottom. For me, I have a little bit of trouble with my left shoulder being a little bit tight. Not as much range of motion as I have on my right side. And this one is beautiful for opening that up. And just again, very gentle, no pain, only doing what you're capable of, the range that you've got. Okay, and that can be an alternative to hands turning. We bring this back up. You may notice when you bring your hands up, you can feel the energy. You may feel like your hands are bigger than they are. If I put my hand now kind of alone, I can feel my arm from my hand here, just with the energy, between the energy of my hand and the energy of my arm. I can feel the difference. It's like I'm rubbing on the hairs on my arm. That tells me that I definitely have increased the flow of energy happening in my body. And I'm very grateful to have the time with all of you who checked in for this, because it gives me the chance to be back here with you doing Tai Chi and getting that energy flow. Okay. So you can turn here again. You may notice that your forearms get very tight. That tells you there's a block of energy in there. Some muscles are working harder than they need to. You just let them go. And if you need to, then just drop it down. You can probably feel the energy flowing in the fingers there. You can bring it back to here. Okay. Fantastic exercise. The thing about Tai Chi is you don't have to know lots of movements. It's not that you need more, it's just you need to do them really, really well. Okay, I hope you're breathing nice and deep now. Go back to your feet. Because we worked on arms, right? But we worked on reciprocals. So now feel your feet. I can feel now that big ball, especially on the right side, has now evened out to the pinky ball. And I'm just sunk right into my feet, just solid. But it feels now like I also have all 5 toes on each foot, which I didn't have when we started. Okay, and if you take your little walk around, you just may notice that there's a fluidity that kind of comes through your hip, your knees, your ankles. And hopefully, it's a little bit more open. Okay. All right, so I know I have a couple people that have managed to stay on to this point. If there are any questions, I would love for you to put them in the comments. And I am open to any suggestions going forward. So if you have anything you'd like to share with me, there's something you want to know, this is your time. On Fridays, I'm just happy to be here sharing Tai Chi with you any way I can, as long as we still cannot be in the same room together with each other. For those that are living on Cape Breton Island, I will be in Port Hawkesbury on Wednesday evenings, starting on the 23rd. And we already have filled the room, which is absolutely amazing. And so hopefully as spaces start to open up, we'll be able to shift things. But I'm very happy it's going to be a great mix of people and opportunities. So just seeing here. Okay. All right, so there's a couple that were saying that it's freezing. So maybe next week what I'll do is I will try, again, coming through Zoom to Facebook Live, and maybe that will stop that challenge that I've got with the freezing in the recording, because I know that can be very frustrating. Okay, and I don't see any questions, but I do hope you feel energized. So if you don't mind putting into the comments how you're feeling. Jeanette, it's awesome to have you here, and I know you're going to be going to seated form today in West Kelowna, so please give them my love. I wish I was out there this fall. I so miss not being there, so thank you for being here this morning, since you have Tai Chi already later today as well. I appreciate that. All right, anything else? I don't see, but I'm always happy for comments. If you noticed a change in your feet, you noticed a change in the energy, you notice one exercise worked more than another, that's really helpful because you might have information that's valuable to somebody else. Okay, so I'm going to take this recording, I'm going to put it onto my YouTube channel, so you'll be able to find it there as well. Please pass it forward, share with those people who can benefit, and I do plan to focus on providing the opportunity for new people coming into Tai Chi to get a chance to go with it. So thanks, everybody. All right. Talk to you later. Have a wonderful day.